Right now, I'm challenging myself to see if I can make 128 Regulation H teams that are each different from one another over the course of 128 days. Why 128, you might ask? At the end of the 128 days, we're going to do something special where we battle every team against each other in a single elimination bracket to see which team emerges on top. There will be some competitively strong teams, there will be some gimmick teams, and there will be some probably a good number of goofs and gaffs in there, so if you want to follow through to the end, subscribe so that you can keep up with each day. But without further ado, let's move on to day 13. Alright everybody, welcome back to another video, and in today's video, we have our first official theme team in the 128 Days Challenge, and it is a Zenless Zone Zero theme team, which I've been playing a good bit offline because I like the game. This video is not in any way an advertisement for Zenless Zone Zero. I just like the game. Zenless Zone Zero gives me that Persona itch, which I haven't gotten in a long time. So, yeah, it's just really fun to play, and I like the combat and stuff too. But into the actual team that we have based on some of the characters here, starting off, we have Jane Doe the Sneasler, who Jane Doe is actually more of a mouse character in-game, so we could have gone with the mouse hold. However, I think much better fits the style of Jane Doe, as Jane Doe uses like her claws and stuff in order to attack the enemies. But our Sneasler is going to be a Dire Claw Close Combat and Fake Out Sneasler with the Protect, and we also have the Air Balloon, which will make us immune to ground type attacks as long as we haven't been hit yet, and we also have the Unburden ability, so if we do get hit, we are going to be able to double our speed. Next up, we have Ben the Ursaluna, and Ben is just a bear. He's a bear, and he's got bear powers in the game. He's also a fire elemental, which complements Ursaluna pretty well because we have the Flame Orb, and at the end of the turn, we will get burned, which will activate our Guts ability, which will give us a 1.5 times attack boost, which is very valuable, and it also works in tandem with our Facade because it will make Facade 140 base power, and with the stab on Facade, it is very powerful. And then we also have the Earthquake for good spread ground type damage, and we have the Fire Punch for a bit of type coverage against things like grass types, because we do have the Terra Dragon, which allows us to resist the water and grass types, which we were previously weak to. And lastly, we have Protect, just to make sure that we can get off that one turn of Guts that we need. Next up, we have Lycaon, who is an actual wolf guy in the game. Ben and Lycaon are Therians, and so is Jane Doe, actually. And that just means that you have some kind of animal attribute, which I haven't progressed enough in the story to know what that's about, or if they explain why there are animal people in this game, but there are animal people in this game. But our Lycanroc is going to be running the Sand Rush, so we will have double the speed whenever Sandstorm is up, and I decided to shake things up with this Lycanroc set a little bit since Pelipper is pretty common in this format, and it usually holds the Focus Sash item. I decided to go with the Loaded Dice Rock Blast in order to help us specifically target down Pelippers. And we also have the Drill Run, which gives us some good type coverage, and with the speed stat that we have, we are exactly 1 speed point faster than the max speed Excadrill, unless it's like a Choice Scarf or something, so as long as Sand is up, we'll be guaranteed to be faster than the Excadrill, who also benefits from the Sand, but we're exactly 1 speed point faster, so we can Drill Run the Excadrill before they click Earthquake into us. And then we also have the Support Howl, which will raise the attack of both Lycanroc and its partner, and most of this team is physical attackers, so it benefits us a lot to just go for Howl. Next up, we have Ellen the Garchomp, who we don't have Sharpedo in the game, and having Shiny Sharpedo would have been the best thing to fit Ellen, but Garchomp is gonna synergize more with this team, and I bet you didn't even notice that we currently have Shiny Garchomp. But Ellen is a Shark Girl, who you might have seen in the promotional material, who's pretty popular. But our Garchomp is going to be using Dragon Claw and Stomping Tantrum as its two main stab moves, and then we also have the Sword Stance for increasing our attack, and we have the Clear Amulet to make it so that our attack isn't being dropped, or any of our stats aren't being dropped for that matter. And then we have the Terra Fairy, because the Terra Fairy makes us immune to being hit by dragons, and dragons are pretty popular in the format right now. And the only things that really beat Fairy are Steel types and Poison types, which we can counter using our ground type moves. Oh, and we also have the Sand Veil for a little bit of degeneracy here, because we have sand on this team, so we might as well be Sand Veil, where we get a little bit of an evasion boost instead of having rough skin. Next up, we have Nicole, who's the main promotional character in the game, but who is very pink, so I decided to pick Clefable. And this Clefable set is going to be using Magic Guard, so that way we don't get damaged by our own sand, but it also means that we won't be getting hurt by some other kind of secondary effects, like being poisoned or being salt cured, so that way we can counter stall a little bit more easily. But this Clefable set is going to be running Moonblast as its main move, and we also have the Calm Mind to increase our special defense and our special attack. And we also have the Life Dew in order to heal ourselves up, or any of our allies up, because a good number of them are pretty tanky, so it benefits to use Clefable with Life Dew. And we have the Protect, just so we don't get attacked. I think most things on this team are running Protect, other than Tyranitar, who we'll get into a second here. But then we have the Leftovers, and in order to increase our survivability, and we have the Terra type Steel, because Steel is epic. Next up, we have an Ethereal, which is the main enemy type in the game, who they have like all these spikes over their bodies that are kind of like crystal things. And Tyranitar kind of looks like it has those spikes. And also I needed the sand, so Tyranitar is here. And this Tyranitar set is going to be an Assault Vest set, which means that whenever sand is up, we are going to have a special defense boost from the sand, since we are a rock type. And we're also going to have a special defense boost from the Assault Vest, which means that special attackers are going to have a difficult time trying to remove Tyranitar more often than not. We also, since we're running the Assault Vest, we can run a full coverage move, so we have the Rock Slide, we have the Knockoff, we have the Terra Blast for whenever we use our Terra Flying to dodge like a fighting type attack or something like that, and we also have the Thunder Punch. So I will admit, I haven't tested this team out at all yet, however, this is like, it's just a sand team. Like, theoretically, it all should work out, unless we face like a Dondozo. A Dondozo is going to give us a lot of trouble. But other than that, let's get into some battles. So this is the battle that I had against a pretty standard Trick Room team here. They have the Amoonguss for distracting so that the Giraffe can set up the Trick Room, and then they have some pretty heavy Trick Room pieces in the Ursaluna and the King Gambit, but they also have Goldango for a bit of flavor and also probably a bit of type coverage. So the game starts out and they decide to lead Incineroar, Amoonguss, which I was kind of predicting that they would start Amoonguss for Farigiraf, so seeing Incineroar here wasn't so great. I decided to protect Ben, so that way Ben could get off its Flame Orb, and they decide to Fake Out into Lycanroc, and then go for the Spore into Ursaluna, which I thought that they were going to Spore into Lycanroc, which I would have been okay with, because the play that we're about to make next. But Ben gets off its Guts ability, and I can use Howl in order to restore one of Ben's attack stages, but the Incineroar is faster than Ben, so it gets to go for the drop there with the Parting Shot, as the Facade does not KO Amoonguss. And Amoonguss puts Lycanroc to sleep, so we're not in a great spot. And they now have their Ursaluna on the field. They actually go for Brick Break, which I didn't read on the open team sheet. We get this Ursaluna has Brick Break, maybe to beat other Ursalunas. And we're slower with our Ursaluna, which is also something I didn't expect since it's a Trick Room team. I decided to go for Earthquake just so I can get rid of Amoonguss, but also so I can take Lycanroc off the field as fast as possible, because with the Incineroar in the back, I really want to get Garchomp on the field. So I get Garchomp on the field, and they bring Incineroar right back to the field. I protect Garchomp, since we're probably going to get Fake Outed in that slot. And I also protect Ben, just in case they were going to pick us off with a Focus Sash. We get a little bit ticked down as I swap into Tyranitar, hoping that we can maybe get a Sandveil dodge with Garchomp. However, the Dragon Claw doesn't do enough into Ursaluna, since it's pretty bulky as it seems. And they go for Facade, and Facade just takes out Ellen in one hit, which is pretty unfortunate. As we bring Ursaluna back to the field, I try to go for Terra Flying, just to avoid an Earthquake from their Ursaluna. And we get off the Rock Slide, and we never know what they went for in that turn because they got flinched, which is a little lucky, but if they did go for a Ground-type move, then it wouldn't matter. Dodging the Will-O-Wisp here is pretty lucky, and actually helps us win the game. As we get off the Rock Slide, and that KOs both, and in the back, they just have the Farigiraf. They go Terra Fairy, but I was expecting them that they might go Terra Fairy here since they hadn't used their Terrestrialization yet, and I'm threatening a knockoff into them. So I tried to go for the Rock Slide in order to maybe get the flinch, and they go for Hyper Voice in order to deal some damage, but also to get off their special attack boost. But now that they've revealed the Terra Flare, we can go for the Terra Blast, and Terra Blast will not miss, and the Dazzling Gleam will not KO us, so we can go for another Terra Blast, and that will finish up the first game, getting a little lucky there. Okay, this second game is where I think I decide to lead, well, they lead Goldango and Amoonguss, but I decided to lead Jane Doe and Garchomp, saying as Garchomp was a very important piece in the last game for me, but I just couldn't really use it that well because I wasn't able to Swords Dance, so
Since I thought they were okay with starting Incineroar, I decided to lead Garchomp, and they lead Goldango. I fake out into Amoonguss because I don't want Amoonguss to do anything this turn. I Stomping Tantrum into Goldango, but it takes almost enough damage to KO it, as it hangs on and it goes for the Nasty Plot. And now I'm forced to double attack into Amoonguss now that it gets to Rage Powder, which is their best play. Amoonguss takes that much damage, and their Goldango is able to clear the field with its Make It Rain, but it will take enough damage from its Life Orb that it KOs itself. So now I have in the back is Ursaluna and Tyranitar, and they still have their Incineroar, and I really needed Garchomp to get rid of Incineroar. I decided to protect Ben just to get off our Flame Orb, and they fake out into Tyranitar and then Spore into Tyranitar. But the sand is naturally chipping their team down, except for the Incineroar because it's safety goggles. But they decide to protect Amoonguss here and then swap out their Incineroar, and Tyranitar takes its sleep turn. As I go for the Earthquake, trying to pick off Amoonguss and maybe get a crit. But the sand is slowly chipping them down, and now they have their Ursaluna on the field, which is the biggest problem as they bring in Incineroar again. Going for another Intimidate, they Brick Break into our Ursaluna. And we get off the Earthquake, and we do crit the Incineroar, which is nice, but at this point, their Ursaluna is still in a really good spot to take over the game, because they can just Facade into Tyranitar. I Terra Blast, thinking that they were going to Rage Powder with Amoonguss, but they don't do that. They just decide to do other Amoonguss things, as Facade takes down Tyranitar, and Earthquake does not manage to take down either slot as they Pollen Puff into Ursaluna. So I could have won if I decided to Terra Blast into Amoonguss, because that would have taken it out, and then the Earthquake would have been single target, and they would have died to their burn, versus me, who still has enough damage to survive the burn at the end of the turn. But everything takes Sand Chip or Burn Chip, depending on what Pokemon you are, and Facade isn't enough to single target down the Ursaluna, but the Amoonguss probably would have been able to Pollen Puff us down anyway, so it doesn't really change much. But we're going on to a Game 3. So in this Game 3, I decide to not lead Jane Doe, as it's very useful for getting rid of Goldango, even though it can't touch Goldango unless it terastallizes. But they lead Goldango and Amoonguss again, which was kind of what I was expecting, and I decided to lead Tyranitar so that we can get that sand up right away with Ellen for any Sand Veil shenanigans that might happen. So they decide to Terra Water their Goldango, and they Rage Powder, but we get a Stomping Tantrum into Amoonguss as they Nasty Plot, and we get the Rock Slide, which is spread, so we deal some damage into Goldango, and Goldango is no longer a Steel type, so it takes additional Sand Chip, which nothing else on the field is taking. I decided to protect Garchomp, thinking that they will go for Make It Rain this turn, which would give them a special attack drop, which might allow Garchomp to survive it, and then I can bring in Jane Doe, who I have in the back, to double, because we'll be faster than Amoonguss, and I'm pretty sure Jane Doe would be able to KO Amoonguss with the Dire Claw after a bit of Sand Chip. But they Rage Powder and they Make It Rain, but Tyranitar, with all of its special defense boost, actually survives the hit, which is awesome, because Tyranitar gets to go for the Rock Slide. And we get a critical on Goldango, but as we saw, the Sand Chip would have gotten the Goldango regardless, so that crit really didn't matter. And now they just have Ursaluna and Incineroar in the back, and now we can use Garchomp to pretty safely just get rid of Incineroar here by doing some damage into it. And as I said before, we have Jane Doe in the back who can handle the Ursaluna because we have the balloon, but we get the close combat crit, but that crit, I don't think it mattered if I'm being honest. And we get to Stomping Tantrum down the Incineroar, so I think I made a good adjustment starting with the sand, as it allowed us to chip down the opponent a little bit, and it did pressure them to terastallize their Goldango immediately into Terra Water. Okay, here we have a Rain team set up, and this Rain team really, they're using Politoed, which I know I used Politoed not too long ago, but the reason for using Politoed is spread coverage with Focus Blast and Ice Beam. Their Arcanine is Intimidate, but we can, they're Life Orb, so we can just use Garchomp to outspeed things. I really don't think there's, we need to get through Amoonguss first, though. So I'm going to lead Garchomp and Tyranitar, and then, actually no, let's not lead Tyranitar in case they lead Rain. Let's lead Garchomp and Jane Doe, and then have Tyranitar and who helps us out the most here? I think Ben helps us out the most. They decide to lead Raichu and Amoonguss. Okay, so the Raichu can be faster than us. I think they should read that Garchomp is the threat, though. and then Fake Out into Garchomp. So I'm going to Sword Stance, and then... I'm going to protect Garchomp, and then bring... It's not a great turn 1 play here. I'm going to Sword Stance and Fake Out the Amoonguss. Fake Out Amoonguss, and what does Raichu do? Okay, Raichu does Fake Out, but Raichu is slower than Jane Doe, which is very good to know right now. As we just got Stomping Tantrumed, so now we can Stomping Tantrum their Amoonguss. And I think we just go for the Dire Claw to guarantee KO into that spot. Hopefully Amoonguss doesn't protect. Okay, they over Terraflying Raichu for whatever reason. But we double into Amoonguss, who was our biggest threat, as what does Raichu do? It nuzzles into Jane Doe, okay. Well, they halved our speed with the paralysis, but they popped our air balloon, so now we're just back to being normal speed. As they do have the Ice Beam on Politoed. I think I'm going to protect Garchomp since it's our really important piece. And I'm going to Close Combat Politoed. They bring in our Caledon here. We're paralyzed with Jane Doe. They Muddy Water, and that takes out Jane Doe, which is mighty unfortunate. Let's bring in Tyranitar to get rid of the rain here. And they've used their Terra, so they could swap back into Raichu for the flying. I think our best move is to Terra Fairy and Sword Stance here. And then... You Stamina? You are Stamina. Let's... Is this Body Press? It's Aura Sphere, but I think we can take it. Let's knock off into this slot. Okay, they swapped Raichu into that slot, which is great. We Sword Stance with Ellen as they Aura Sphere into Tyranitar, but Tyranitar absolutely takes it despite it having a quad weakness. As we bring Raichu down to Sash, which allows Raichu to go down, but now they're going to bring back Rain. But Rain isn't super important here, now that we have our Sword Stance up, because Politoed can't be faster than Garchomp, which means that Garchomp is going to get to KO our Caledon. Probably? I don't want to say probably. We don't have much use for Ben here, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to protect... I think my best move is protect and then bring in Ben, just so I can get the weather to go away, because Ben's not... We can handle Garchomp at this point. They Electro Shot into Garchomp, and they Focus Blast into Ben, which does get us a special defense drop, and now Ben is burned for in the back. So let's Stomping Tantrum into the Arcaladon, and let's bring back in Tyranitar. And Stomping Tantrum picks up KO into Arcaladon, which is good, and they Muddy Water, and they miss Tyranitar, which is not the Pokemon that I thought they would miss, as we do have the Sandvale active right now, but at this point, with the Stomping Tantrum and the knockoff from Tyranitar, the game should be pretty... Did they crit Tyranitar here? No. Oh, the accuracy dropped Tyranitar. Oh, poor Tyranitar. I mean, we can just protect and then end the game with Ben on the field just to get rid of the accuracy drop, but the Politoed will die to the sand. Okay, so what would be the change-up from the opponent here? Their Corviknight is not Body Press, which is really good, which is probably why they didn't bring it. But what would they change up, if anything? I think I just lead Ellen and Jane again. And then... Ben in the back was a little extra with Garchomp, however, we need Ben in order to beat Arcaladon if for whatever reason. But the Arcaladon's Terra Electric, so it can't be immune to ground-type moves, and also doesn't have Protect, despite the fact that it's Citrus Berry. We have to bring Sand, of course, and our most ideal last Pokemon, I guess it could be Lycanroc, who has the Drill Run, and he also has the Howl. Yeah, I think I'm going to bring Lycanroc in the back this time. As they decidedly Politoed, and okay, they do bring Corviknight this time, which allows them to Tailwind things. Let's go for the Sword Stance. I think we're about to play into trying to outstall the Tailwind with our pawns that we have. They bring in Amoonguss here. They're going to try to put Garchomp to sleep. Yeah, they need Tailwind. It depends how fast their Amoonguss is, but I think my best play is to Dragon Claw into Amoonguss and then swap in Tyranitar to get our Sand. A Drill Peck, but we're Tyranitar, so we take it just fine. Dragon Claw brings Amoonguss super slow, which we were faster, but now Garchomp is asleep, so we need Garchomp to wake up. We do have the Thunder Punch with Tyranitar here, however, I am weary of them having our Caledon in the back. I think I'm going to knock off into Corviknight, though, to get rid of its lefties. They U-turn, and what do they bring in? Okay, they bring in Politoed, so we get to take out that thing's Assault Vest. Or no, Amoonguss is faster than Tyranitar here, which is a little unfortunate. We can't I mean, the Politoed is Ice Beam, but they might predict that and just go for the Muddy Water. I think I have to use my Terra Fairy here and Stomping Tantrum. And then, let's swap in Jane Doe. Still has the Balloon. Muddy Water does come out. We pop our Balloon, and what does Amoonguss do? They super called the Terra Fairy there. That's a problem. Okay. Then, if they did that, I think I have to Howl with the Lycanroc, and we're currently faster with Jane, though. I think I'm going to Rock Blast into Politoed, and then swap in Tyranitar, even though this will give us up our Burden. We'll at least get the Sand back. Okay, they're swapping Corviknight. I go Terra Ghost on Amoonguss. Hopefully they didn't decide... No, they decided to put Lycanroc to sleep. Alright, well the Sand gets Corviknight, but now they can just bring back in Politoed. So the opponent is playing a lot better with their weather right now. The Rock Blast hit 4 times. At this point... I mean, Lycanroc's gonna be asleep. At this point, I don't think we have any outs. I guess my out should have just been KOing Amoonguss there with the faster Jane Doe. They did waste their Terra Ghost, though. I'm gonna try Thunder Punching into this here. Okay, yeah, they're gonna take down Tyranitar. No, they're gonna Tailwind. Well, we're still asleep, so it doesn't change much. Okay, they do reveal our Caledon in the back for this game. But our Caledon's probably faster with the Tailwind, since we don't have our Unburden active right now. Yeah, and the Electroshot. Okay. So they were willing to lead Corviknight last game. We do a Fire Punch on Ursaluna. I think I'm going to lead Jane Doe and Ursaluna, because getting slept last game was really unfortunate, and our main counter to that is using Ursaluna, who burns. Then we have Garchomp, and then we have Tyranitar, Corviknight, and Amoonguss. Amoonguss might Terra Ghost here right away. That would be the most unfortunate thing to happen. So let's Fake Out into Corviknight and Protect with Ursaluna. Okay, they do Terra Ghost right away, but thankfully we decided to target Corviknight here. They try to sleep Ursaluna, which is good, because it would be protected, and now we get our burn off. So what can we hit the heart? I'm not too concerned if Jane Doe falls asleep. I am concerned, though, if we close combat, and then the Corviknight U-turns into the Politoed. Let's go for the close combat and the Earthquake, since Jane Doe should still be faster. Close combat, do massive damage to Corviknight. They do Tailwind, and they try to Spore, but Spore fails? I'm not quite sure why. Did they side... No, they didn't side Spore. I think they tried... What did they do? It just says that failed, not that it doesn't affect Ursaluna. Okay, well, I'm gonna close combat into Corviknight again, and then Earthquake again. So now Corviknight can break our Balloon, however... Okay, the Drill Peck... and the Drill Peck just KOs Jane Doe. Okay. Jane Doe kind of did its job at this point, though, because now we can bring in Garchomp, who is shown to be faster than the Amoonguss. We might swap in Politoed here. So I'm gonna protect with Garchomp and then go for the Earthquake. Even though they haven't been swapping in Politoed here, I think they're gonna do it this turn. They did not. Oh, they did U-turn with Corviknight, though. Okay, what are they switching into this time, though? Okay, now Politoed is coming in. And they try to Spore into Garchomp, which is fine, as we get the Earthquake. And Earthquake KOs Amoonguss. And now it's Politoed, Corviknight, and whatever's in the back. As they bring in Corviknight, and... Okay, we could just swap Tyranitar and then go Terra Dragon on Ben. And then try to KO Politoed. Because I want to preserve Garchomp for when we're outside of Tailwind. Actually, I think the better play is to swap Tyranitar and then go Terra Dragon, and then use Fire Punch into Corviknight. Okay, they swapped in our Caledon this turn. We get Tyranitar in. We Terra Dragon. They try to Drill Peck down Ben. However, the Fire Punch, so close to KOing, but now they're outside of Tailwind at least. And they could very well just bring their Rain back. It would be really easy for them to just swap in Politoed here. So I think I'm going to Thunder Punch into Corviknight, and then swap... I didn't get to do anything. And they Dragon Pulse because they're faster.
The U-turn, though, what did Tyranitar do? I didn't get it because I was lagging. Okay, they swapped in Politoed. We Rock Slide, but that Rock Slide is less helpful, because that's why I wanted to single target the Archaludon. Because now the Archaludon is going to get a stamina boost. Corviknight comes back in, and I'm going to try and KO Corviknight, and Stomping. I think I have to Stomping into Archaludon this turn. Stomping Archaludon, it does that much, as they got their Berry. They Dragon Pulse into Garchomp, but that doesn't take Garchomp out. And I'm going to try and take out... I think I have to play it assuming that I can crit them or they don't protect. Because we would have knocked them out if I hadn't timed out because of the lag. Because they wouldn't have had the defense boost. So that very one hit of the Rock Slide not doing anything really screwed us over in this game. Which I guess it's my fault. I've been recording for too long. Trying to Stomping Tantrum the Archaludon doesn't get the damage, but they Dragon Pulse down as they got Tailwind with Corviknight. And unless we crit them with... I think knockoff is our highest damage here. Unless we crit them with the knockoff, then we don't win. They Aura Sphere, but we're Assault Vest, so we live it. And we hit them with knockoff, but we don't crit them, so they win. Yeah, that's really... We had the tools to win that game there. If I had just knocked off into the Politoed in order to KO it. But unfortunately, we timed out on that one turn.
Okay, here we have a bit of... the rain and... there's a little bit of like everything on this team. I think for this battle, I'm going to... I think I'm going to lead with Lycanroc, and then have Jane Doe, and then let's have Garchomp and Tyranitar in the back. Okay, they decided to lead Arcanine and Archaludon. There's safety goggles. Archaludon's Terra Dragon, though. I think I am fine howling, and then... they do have Body Press with Archaludon. Let's howl, and then fake out into Arcanine, and see what happens. Archaludon decides to charge the Electro Shot. Oh, and it's Power Herb Archaludon. I did not notice that. Well, now they can just Extreme Speed with Arcanine, and it doesn't matter how fast our Burden makes us. I'm going to Drill Run into Arcanine, though, and we're going to protect Jane, though. And they do try to Extreme Speed that slot, which is good. And we do get to Drill Run into Arcanine, which I don't think that crit mattered. But they Flash Cannon down Lycanroc. And, okay, they bring in Rillaboom, so they want to threaten down Jane Doe. But they don't have any Dragon-type moves, so I'm going to Swords Dance with Garchomp, and then... I can bring Jane Doe back in later for Fake Out Pressure. I think I'm going to swap Tyranitar here in order to activate her Sand. And they decided to Fake Out into Garchomp instead, and Garchomp flinches. And they crit us with the Flash Cannon, which, that one mattered. We're going to protect with Jane Doe, and we're going to Terraflying Tyranitar, because I think we have to, because I want to get rid of Rillaboom. They try to Flash Cannon to take out Jane Doe. Terra Blast takes out Rillaboom, which takes their priority off the field. And, okay, they bring Pelipper as their last Mon, who does not have Wide Guard. But they haven't used their Terra yet, so I'm going to Close Combat into Archaludon, and then I'm going to Rock Slide. And that doesn't pick up KO. But Archaludon Electro Shots into Tyranitar, and that's going to knock us out. Alright. Well, it was close. Okay, so what is the change up this time? I think I do the same thing that I did do last time, except this time I can just Drill Run into the Arcanine on turn 1, and then protect with and then Fake Out the Archaludon. No, Faking Out the Archaludon will activate Stamina, though. I think I'm fine bringing the same Mons. Oh, they leave Rillaboom this time, though, which is mighty annoying. Let's Close Combat Oh, they could just double into Jane Doe, though. Let's double Protect to see what they want to do. Because I'm okay with forfeiting my Fake Out if it means that I know what they're going to do this turn. They tried to take out Lycanroc. Okay. Let's Dire Claw down the Rillaboom. And then... I don't think the Grassy Glide will take us out. Let's Howl with Lycanroc. They decide to swap in Hisuian Arcanine and Grassy Glide, and that takes out Lycanroc in one hit. We do Dark Claw, though, and we get the Poison, so we can kind of stall the Rillaboom. But here we can bring in Garchomp. I don't think the odds of them Extreme Speeding and Grassy Gliding the same Pokemon are very high. They could Terra, though, and a Terra would really mess us up. So yet again, I'm gonna double protect to see what they want to do. They Flare Blitzed into Garchomp, and they Wood Hammered into Garchomp. Okay. Well, I'm fine with that because we can just Dire Claw and Stomping Tantrum, and that theoretically KOs both. However, I think a Tear is somewhat likely here. They don't Tear though, so we just KO both, which that's great. I know for a fact that they have a Caledon and they bring out Pelipper. Okay. If there was a time for them to Terra, I think it would be here. However, they do have Protect, so I think I might actually want to double the Pelipper here. Actually, let's just Dire Claw into the Pelipper and then swap in Tyranitar to bring up the Sand. Or Caledon, okay, the Caledon Terra Dragons, which is good that we drawed that out here. Dire Claw doesn't do that much, but Flash Cannon doesn't do that much, and they speed drop us, but they proc our Balloon, which means that our speed is now back up. And oh, I forgot they are still Power Herb Electro Shot. I don't think I have any fear just Dire Clawing and Thunder Punching into Pelipper. Because they Flash Cannon, and they try to Hurricane, but Hurricane misses because we're currently in Sand. Thunder Punch gets to take out Pelipper, and with Garchomp in the back, I think we should be good here, because we can just Dragon Claw. However, I need to swap in Garchomp without hitting this thing. So I'm actually going to side Thunder Punch into Garchomp here. They Electro Shot, but they Electro Shot Garchomp. We Thunder Punch so that we don't have to hit the Archaludon. Should be good to deal Dragon Claw damage, and then knockoff damage. Dragon Claw does a lot, but it does activate the defense boost. Flash Cannon comes out, but it doesn't KO Garchomp, but even if it did, I think that with Jane Doe's attack drop being gone, that we would be able to KO with close combat. Okay, game 3, and if my opponent was going to make a change-up, I would gamble that they're going to lead Pelipper, and maybe Arcanine. However, Lycanroc still covers for that. I'm not sure how much an Intimidated Rock Blast will do, though. But I'm just going to lead Jane Doe and Lycanroc again. And then have Garchomp and Tyranitar in the back. Okay, they lead Ursaluna Blood Moon this time. And Ursaluna Blood Moon is Terra Ghost. So I have to make the correct play who is going to stay and who's going to go. Because they could just swap in Arcanine for either slot here. I think I'm just going to close combat into the Archaludon and Howl with Lycanroc. Okay, they Terra Ghosted. Close combat takes our Archaludon, though. What does Ursaluna do? It decides to Earth Power Jane Doe, but we're immune because we're Balloon! Look at that! They bring an Arcanine, which gets rid of our attack drop, but at this point, I'm pretty fine with that, because we can Dire Claw Ursaluna, and... but the Extreme Speed actually might take out Jane Doe. Should I waste my Terra Ghost here, just to avoid being Extreme Speeded? Actually, no, I think the ideal move is to protect Jane Doe, and then Drill Run into Arcanine. Okay, they didn't Extreme Speed Jane Doe, which might have KO'd it, but we protect, and they Hyper Voice. Lycanroc takes it because it's a good old rock type. As they decide to bring in Rillaboom here, and Rillaboom actually has a lot of presence. Because Rillaboom can fake out Jane Doe, and then they can Earth Power into Jane Doe, but I think I'm fine with that happening. If I get to Dire Claw the Rillaboom, and then protect Lycanroc. Okay, they do fake out Jane Doe, and they even get the crit fake out. We flinch, and they try to Earth Power Lycanroc. Lycanroc gets a bit of health back. I don't think Grassy Glide from this range will pick up the KO. And Rillaboom is Assault Vest. We are currently unburdened with Jane Doe, though, so it's not... It's faster than Lycanroc, so we can't Howl it. So I think I'm just going to Rock Blast to get some chip into Ursaluna. Okay, they Grassy Glide into the Lycanroc slot, which makes perfect sense to me. We Dire Claw into Rillaboom, and it gets brought that low as they Earth Power into Jane Doe. But now we bring in Garchomp and Tyranitar, and we can just Dragon Claw into Rillaboom, and we can knock off into Ursaluna. I could use my Terra... Wait, should I use my Terra Flying here, actually? I'm going to Dragon Claw and Terra Flying knock off Ursaluna. Because a Grassy Glide crit... Okay, they don't even decide to attack into Tyranitar there. They just decide to attack into Garchomp. We get rid of Rillaboom as we knock off into Ursaluna, and what does Ursaluna do? It Blood Moons into Tyranitar. Well, they predicted us, but Tyranitar is Assault Vest, so it lives. And let's double into Ursaluna, and we get the crit, which Doesn't matter. Okay, and that is the Zenless Zone Zero theme team. Honestly, I think this team's pretty good. Like, it needs some tweaking for specific matchups in order to know what to do, and you have to know how to pilot it really well, because there's a lot of things that it doesn't deal well against, and sadly we couldn't use Clefable, because I don't think we had any good games where I could use Clefable. However, it... I think what I should have done is I should have made Clefable dual screens instead of making it just set up and attack things with Life Dew. But you live and you learn, and I'm fine with this team as it is now. I will admit, though, that I did have a game where I fought against, like, a Lilligant Torkoal Trick Room team that I lost against very narrowly, but I wasn't recording the game, so I just decided to drop it. It was a game where I brought Clefable in order to Calm Mind to try and take an Expanding Force, and it did less than 50% the first time that Clefable got hit by the Expanding Force by the Hatterene that was on the team, but it KO'd that... Hatterene KO'd the second time. So, yeah, the Clefable set needs adjusted if you're going to use Clefable, but the Magic Guard, it's still good synergy. I just wish that we had more of a reason to bring it in the games that we had today. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, maybe consider leaving a like on the video, and maybe even consider subscribing, because both of those things will help me out an absolute ton, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much.